Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you able to you're able to hear me okay?
Yes, I can. How about you?
I'm good. Hey, Dr. Bassi.
Hey.
Like to go ahead and call the executive committee meeting to order. The president of the board, Mr. Michelle Owens. And so we will just go through our agenda after it's printed. So first will be our Zoom appearance by Dr. I think it's Ruthie Bassi.
Correct. I'm Dr. Basi here.
All right, Dr. Bassi, nice to meet you. Good morning. So
Good morning.
take a second and let you tell the committee about your request.
Sorry, your voice is breaking a bit.
Can you hear me clear now?
It's breaking a little bit, but you said tell committee about?
About your request.
Oh, yes. So the request is for the exclusion for the extended mileage coverage because I am collaborating with the nurse practitioner, the psych nurse practitioners at Pine Grove. And I am lately been residing in North Carolina, so I'm more than 75 miles away from the hospital where I work.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do and how this relationship began?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I'm a psychiatrist. I have been working with Pine Grove for close to 8 years, and I provide my clinical services in the outpatient department, the inpatient department at Pine Grove, as well as I provide services in the partial hospitalization program. So the main role is seeing patients in outpatient, inpatient, and this partial hospital.
And so how long has it been since you relocated?
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
How long has it been since you relocated?
Uh, Cannot understand, the voice is breaking.
Well,
Then you move, see, oh,
are you still having difficulty hearing us?
It's breaking some off and on in between.
Dr. Bossy, can you hear me?
I can hear you better, yes, from that mic.
When did you leave Mississippi?
In September of 2023.
And you had full time at Pine Grove prior to that?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how many nurse practitioners do you collaborate with?
5 nurse practitioners. So for few of them, I'm the primary collaborator, and few of them I'm the secondary or the backup collaborator.
Any questions?
Yes, I'm a psychiatrist in Tupelo, Mississippi, Dr. Roopsy. Can you hear me?
Dr.
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, Dr. Bossy. Anyway, do you do direct patient care yourself or just supervise the nurse practitioners?
No, I do provide direct patient care.
Okay. And do you practice more than 20 hours a week?
Yes,
And
I'm full-time, 40 hours a week.
you're full-time, you're still full-time with Pine Grove.
Correct.
Okay. And could you tell me about the telepsychiatry setup that you use? How does that work?
Sure. So in the outpatient clinic, I have my own separate room, still the same room that we had used in the past where I used to go. And the patients come to the clinic, the nurse triage them, and then the patients are brought in that room where we have this whole setup, a computer, with the mic and everything, and the patients sit and I talk to them. In that Zoom machine, we have the setting in case I have to zoom out or zoom in to see anything with the patients. Let's say I want to see their, evaluate them for any aims, any abnormal movements in the face. I have to do any close up, or I have to zoom out if I want to see the patient stand up, evaluate for those kind of things. So we have that set up. I have the control. In the partial hospitalization program, again, it's the same setting. We have a separate room with the video visits where the PHP coordinator brings the patient. I talk to them. I again have the control over the machine. In the inpatient setting, little different. We have a separate room where we have the setup for the video call where I can see and talk to the patients. But at the same time, the machine can be taken to the patient's room in case a patient is not feeling well or the patient is psychotic, agitated, where they cannot be brought to that room. So I can go and see the patients out there. And we always have the techs helping us with that setup.
Okay, thank you. And what type of interaction do you have with the three nurse practitioners that you're primary collaborator with?
Sure. So we have the electronic health records. The nurse practitioners with whom I have been collaborating, they generally reach out to me, I would say almost on a daily basis through that electronic health record. We can message them, just talk about in case they are having any issues. Second, they reach out to me frequently through the phone calls too for some reason in case they want to talk for longer, discuss the patient care. But at the same time, like lately with the partial hospitalization program, I have been talking to the psych nurse practitioner, Miss Heather Call, at least once a week, and we go over the whole list of patients that we have to make sure we all are on the same page and providing the care and there are no lapses. So there is a ongoing interaction, but at the same time, they send me their notes for review that I co-sign. Most of the initial psych evaluations, whether in the outpatient or the inpatient, they come to me, I review their note, and in case any concerns, things like that, I call them. And off and on, they do send me their follow-up notes. So I'm reviewing all those things. Plus, at the same time, in case in the inpatient unit, a patient is very psychotic or they need to be court committed, the psych nurse practitioners reach out to me and I do see the patient the next day. So I'm in constant contact with them, reviewing their notes. We are talking about patient care and we have the staffing meetings too.
Okay, and you meet with them face to face via remote technology. You meet with the nurse practitioners face to face via Zoom or something.
It's less through the video, but we are in constant touch through the messaging or the phone.
But you're required to meet face to face every 3 months, right?
Yes.
Right.
Uh,
Thank you, Dr. Bassi.
yes.
So just going back to that, I'm trying to understand the inpatient process. So what physician is available to respond to immediate issues that arise in the facility under this? And when I was looking at the information here, just what's the provision for physician availability?
Sorry, is breaking again.
Dr. Bossy, can you hear us?
Yes,
You gotta be right here at this.
Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
So, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So my question was, can you explain what the process is? Because I've been looking over the protocols and other information. It's not clear to me like what physician coverage is available to respond to immediate emergencies that occur in an inpatient setting. So can you describe that for me?
Sure. Yes, we have a backup provider for all the psych nurse practitioners. Like Dr. Marlowe and Dr. Miller are always as a backup available in case someone needs to be seen urgently and I'm not there.
And so are those people on site?
Yes, they are on site.
Thank you. That's all I have.
And, Dr. Lassie, are you seeing patients in North Carolina?
No, I just see patients in Mississippi,
Okay.
working for Pine Grove full time.
Okay. And you have, other physicians who do the histories and physicals?
Like other providers at Pine Grove or I'm sorry, the last sentence I could not understand.
Histories and physicals.
We have family nurse practitioners who do the physicals for all the patients on the inpatient unit.
Okay, thank you.
You sound like somebody physically present on his own.
I'm sorry, I could not understand the last. It's breaking.
The nurse practitioners who do the HMPs, they have their own collaborators who sign off, right?
They do send me the notes for co-signing.
For the histories and physicals.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything? All right. Did she have it? Is there anyone else with you?
Yes, I have Miss Debbie Sanford here joining me on the call and Dr. Lampa. I'm sorry.
No, I thought,
Dr. Limbo, can you hear us? Might just do these both at once, or if they haven't the same class.
well, I was just trying to figure out if they were here to speak on behalf of this request. That was all I wanted to be sure. That's what I thought.
I'm Debbie Sanford, the administrator for Pine Grove, and I was just here just if there were any other questions that I needed to answer on behalf of Pine Grove.
Was there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think that Dr. Bussey has spoken to her practice and how that works, and that we have backup physicians.
All right. So at this time, as
Well, all right, so Ken mentioned maybe doing a is Dr. Limpa the same request with the same group?
We need to do it
Okay,
separately.
all right.
I make a motion, we go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to consider whether to enter into executive session on this matter.
I second that.
All right, moved and appropriately seconded, all in favor? Aye. All right, so now we've closed the meeting and we just need to determine whether we want to go into executive session, so we can do that in the back.
Okay.
That's it.
Got it.
You shut it down. Okay, sounds good.
I wonder if they're coming back to us.
I was thinking the same thing, Debbie. I didn't, because I couldn't really understand if they closed the session or.
Yeah, all right. Hey, y'all, they just went back in the back to deliberate on the request. So they'll be back in just a minute.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll let Dr. Bussey know. I don't know if she's gotten off, looks
Bossy. Dr. Bossy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, so, I'm reviewing the information that was submitted. Are you hearing us?
It's breaking a little bit, but I can understand.
Okay. So in reviewing the information that was submitted, the agency is found is that rather than any exceptions to the rule,
I'm having difficulty. Um, sorry.
you, so that does it work? No, it is difficult. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you much better.
So, all right, so we're gonna try this one more time. In reviewing the information that was submitted, the committee found that, rather than an exception to, 1.42630, which is extended mileage, that it was actually more appropriate for you to have an exception to the 20. And so at this time, we wanted to see if you were interested in amending your request to instead refer to the appropriate regulation, which would be the 2080 rule, so that you would have a waiver to that 2080 rule as opposed to the one that you requested for extended mileage. Would you like to do that at this time?
I would ask Miss Debbie Sanford. Miss Sanford, do you have any input on that?
Uh-oh, she's muted. Hold on. 1 second, Miss Sanford.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear everything you were saying because it was breaking up. Can you explain a little bit about the 80-20 rule?
So essentially, the rule that you requested an exemption for does not really apply in this case.
Okay.
But there is an exemption that is needed, and that would fall under the 2080 rule, which is about the time of practice within the state of Mississippi. Because while Dr. Bossy does work full-time in Mississippi, it is through telehealth, and telehealth is not included in that provision. So she would require a waiver of that rule in order to continue her practice as described or her request. So it's really just putting it with the right waiver as opposed to the extended mileage, which was the original request, which really doesn't apply in this case because mental health is considered primary care.
Yes.
And under our regulations, primary care does not have that same requirement.
Okay.
Okay, so the appropriate request or waiver that is needed would be a waiver of the 2080 rule, which is 2630. And it specifically is listed under our definitions.
Okay.
Paul?
If I may, yes, ma'am. Also, rule 1.5, primary care extended mileage, so paragraph 4, the specific 80-20 requirement.
I think I had that written somewhere. Didn't read it. Okay. Okay, so I realize that this is kind of a little different than what you had originally requested, but it is the most appropriate for you to have the practice that you have requested. And so we wanted to give you the opportunity to amend your request at this time to comply with that. Is that what you would like to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely.
Okay. So hearing that, Dr. Kennard will give you the results of the executive committee's decision.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. You just can't hold the thing. To restate, what we've agreed upon is to have you submit, to approve the request for the appropriate exception, rule exception, which is not the 75-mile exception. It is the 2080-hour rule included in part 2630 of the rules. Rule 1.5. So we are granting the exception for that rule at this time. As amended.
Okay, thank you. I can't hear you.
I mean,
Cannot hear you, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Approve your amended request so that you can continue practice as requested.
Okay.
can we? All right.
Okay. Thank you.
There, we'll move on. All right, so next on the agenda is a Zoom appearance by Dr. Brian Limpa.
Hello.
Hi there, can you hear us?
Yeah, it right now I can, yeah.
Okay, sounds great. So Dr. Limpa, I understand that you're requesting an exception to the 2080 rule.
That's correct.
All right, so can you tell us a little bit about your practice, please?
Sure. So I've been working with Pine Grove and Forest General for a little over a year now. I work approximately 20 hours a week. I work on the medicine floor doing consult and liaison services. And then I work in a residential treatment center, which is where I'm trying to apply for the nurse practitioner collaboration. Yeah, so that's my practice. In the residential treatment center, it's similar to the setup that Dr. Abbasi was talking about. We have a dedicated room in which I would interview the patients independently. The techs will set that up for me. And then my nurse practitioner I speak to essentially every day. Our primary mode of communication is, I'd say it's 50-50 between electronic medical records, so Epic, and then talk and text on the phone. Yeah.
Where is your physical location, Dr. Limpa?
I think you're asking about was it about the physical exams?
No, your location. Where are you located?
Oh, sorry. So I'm currently in Brooklyn, New York. My wife is a resident, so we're here. We won't stay long-term Brooklyn, but that's where we're at for the next year and a half.
Okay. So you're 40 hours weekly in Mississippi?
20 hours weekly, correct.
Okay. And is that a residential treatment center here
Pine Grove.
You know, I couldn't make that out.
Yes, that's what he does.
Okay.
That's the answer to Louise's question. Is it by telemedicine?
It is.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to close.
Okay. Or we could just, we could.
We have to go into executive session.
Info.
I make a motion that we approve the extension to 28 rule.
I second.
All right, so there, we moved and properly seconded that we, provide the exception as requested. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's unanimous. All right,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sanford. All right, our agenda is the update, Dr. Cleveland, Dr. Hillegas.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Can everybody hear me?
That is not funny.
Okay. Y'all may remember Dr. Hillegas is the cardiologist who has been doing research for the past, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, and he requested a reentry to the practice of medicine. And so we worked out a reentry program with him that we feel like will be sufficient to make him a safe practicing cardiologist. And based on him agreeing to the program that we had worked out as executive director, I went ahead and gave him a waiver to licensure and gave him a license so he could start the program. But we still need the executive committee and then the full board's approval for him to be a licensed physician in the state. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you, I wanted them to see the document, because I think, so, and I'll just, moment of privilege here. So I just wanted them to see that, because I think sometimes when we do these reentry programs, and there'll be conversations that centered around this, like at the federation level, but this process of reentry is a big issue.
Right.
And there are members of this board who have spent a lot of time and energy putting this thing together in a way that's really thoughtful to help physicians who have, for whatever reason, been out of practice, to have a pathway that creates accountability, but also gives them appropriate exposure and experiences to be able to have a pathway back to safe practice. And so I thought it would be good for people to be able to see it, because these things are not, it's not just, even for transparency's sake, for people to see kind of the processes that some of our licensees have to go through in order to be able to get back to practice. So that you guys just know there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I feel like it doesn't really do it justice sometimes when all you do is say, well, yeah, we think that's great, and go ahead. I mean, Ken's perfectly trustworthy and has really done a great job here. But I feel like sometimes y'all should see some of this stuff, because it's very thoughtful and well put together.
Do you want to take 5 minutes if we get y'all copies?
I mean, we're a few minutes away from like if we got, I mean, do we have time for that? Because I would like for them to be able at least to see it, you know, in the.
I mean, is it going to delay the board meeting? Maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but I mean, I think that's all.
I just, you know, if we're gonna vote to like approve it, I want them to at least see it so that they can understand. And I know it still doesn't show how much went into the creation of that thing, but
Yeah, if we can just take 5 minutes, Paul has already left to go make copies of it.
and I will say that I've had an opportunity to review it as well. So but I just thought that's something that everybody else needs to see, so that y'all have an idea.
While Paul's making copies, if I can just give a little history on how we got here, maybe. So not long after, well, as Dr. Owens had mentioned, re-entry for physicians that have been out of practice is a national issue. It's not just an issue here in Mississippi. And when you look for programs for re-entry into practice for physicians who have been out of practice for extended periods of time, greater than 3 years minimum, there are none. You can't take a resident slot because those residents need those cases and that experience. And so financially, it's not really a doable thing. And based on our experience here, going back to not long after I became executive director, we had a cardiothoracic surgeon who had been out and needed a re-entry program. And we worked very closely with the attending physicians on the coast at the hospital where he was going to be going. And we put together a very robust re-entry program for him, which included milestones and check-offs and approvals and such. We had that situation arise again with a different type of surgeon. We had that situation arise with an OBGYN. And this
Which is also a type of surgeon.
Which is another type of surgeon. And so this has proven to be a successful model for re-entry. What you have before you now is Dr. Hillegas's re-entry, which is a little bit different because he's not an interventionalist of any kind. Or he was at one point, but that's not what he's asking to do now. He does not want to do any operations. He's not a surgeon. So we had to modify that to just clinical visits and approval of clinical visits and decision-making processes and things like that. And so once again, there are milestones with approvals from the attending physicians who are watching over him. That is then relayed to me. And what I will do is get an independent evaluation of that from either, if we have a board member that's in that specialty, I can use a board member, but in this situation, I'll have to go outside and have the reports reviewed by a cardiologist. And then once they approve it, he can move to the next phase of reentry. And so I think with the medical reentry, we only did 2 phases. With surgical reentries, we did 3 phases. But that's what you have before you here.
Ken, thanks for that. Guys, any questions? I just feel like it's important sometimes for you to kind of know what this looks like.
And a lot of thought does go into these. And so I appreciate the opportunity to kind of explain that.
Awesome. All right. So for this, would you like so the executive committee, I think it would be good if we just had if we took a vote here to approve this so that then it could be approved by or considered by the full board. So at this time, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
I just wanted to, you did this, you started it, so I'm interested now, Dr. Owens. It's a 12-month, no less than 12-month period. So it's a year-long reentry program, but there's 2 sets of 100 patients each. Outside of those 100 patients, can they see patients under those terms until the proctor attests to each stage? So
any patient visits have to be proctored under the rules of that phase.
Okay.
And so
it can be more than
He
100.
cannot do independent patient visits at all.
Okay.
Until he has completed the reentry program.
Okay. But he could see 300. You just got to see 100 for the proctor.
Yes.
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I
We
mean?
don't cover that.
Yeah, because it's a year. That's only 200 patients a year minimum.
So what usually happens in this situation is they will finish a phase. And then once they finish the phase, I have to get reports from the physicians that have been doing the oversight.
Okay.
Once I get those reports, then I will have those reports reviewed by somebody in that specialty. Then they will get back to me and say, I think this physician should move to the next phase.
Okay.
So that usually takes another month to month and a half to go through all that. So they can continue seeing patients under the phase they were in
Okay, all right.
previously, but they can't move to the next phase
Okay.
until they get the board approval to move.
That's clear.
Did I make that?
Yeah.
That's good.
And typically what we found is that most people, and you can correct me if I speak out of turn, but most individuals, they still continue doing whatever they're doing at their level, because the whole point is not, I just want to do the bare minimum so that I can get to the next, but they want, like, the whole purpose is recognizing the importance and the need to build your skills back up
Right.
and to get back into
Yeah.
practice. And for proceduralists in particular, the more that you do, the better you tend to be.
Yeah.
So. But I mean, hats off to the proctors, because
Right.
the people who sign up to do this, it is not, it's definitely not without a sacrifice on all sides.
There's sacrifice to them and there's risk.
Absolutely.
So
So he can, like a resident, he can see patients. He doesn't have to have another doctor there when he sees the patients, but he just has to sign up to them.
right,
Okay, and then they have to fill out a report.
yes,
That sounds like a lot of work.
it is a lot of work, but it reassures the board that we are putting a safe physician out there seeing patients.
Okay, and then after the first 100 patients, he can serve as attending physician as long as another proctoring physician is available, but he doesn't have to report to them.
Correct.
But they feel like.
So guys, I need a motion, because he's doing a lot of discussion, but we need a motion.
I move that we approve the practice reentry agreement.
Second it.
All right, moved and seconded that we approve the practice agreement as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we will add this to the executive committee report for consideration of full board. All right, last but not least, our executive director.
So, as I always report to the executive committee, I continue to meet with the other health boards at least monthly. We have added additional meetings, which are investigative in nature, with Board of Pharmacy and Board of Nursing. And during the months of January and February, I had 8 meetings with licensees for regulatory compliance issues. Dr. Owens and I attended a meeting by the FSMB on AI and the regulations of AI. And then this has been a very busy legislative session, and we will update more in the full board meeting. But I've been spending a lot of time down at the Capitol. I'm gonna have to start paying rent. I spend much more time down there. Last but not least, yours truly has been appointed as a member of the board of directors for the FSMB. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Is that, you get a room upgrade in Nashville for that?
I get a flight. I go back and run up there.
I'd be interested, when we have time, I'd be interested in learning more about what you learned about the AI.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
You need much time.
It's scary.
Yeah, we have 1 second left. Yeah, okay.
There it goes.
There we go. All right, well, thanks, Ken, and to our staff too. Just want to take this opportunity to say thanks to our staff, because we have incredible staff who work here at the board, who not only provide support and information for us, but who also kind of really keep things going, and who really make sausage behind the scenes, whether it's trying to advance some of our legislative requests and our agendas there, representing us always to the public in a way that always makes us proud. And we're just grateful to all of them for the work that they do. And sometimes it's not easy and it's also oftentimes thankless because when you show up, people don't want to let you in. Our investigations. But we do appreciate everything that you do because it really takes all of us. And sometimes it's just good to hear you appreciate it. That's it. We're adjourned.
We want to take 5.